Hello there, my lovers, and a happy new year. Apologies, the satanic candle has been up to all kinds of mischief over the festive period, and I've been locked into a hellish dimension up until this very moment. I hope you all had a lovely time. I spent the vernal equinox celebrating as I usually do, completely naked, running around some standing stones, accompanied by a bevy of young naked maidens. Bracing, but splendid. Anyway, before we take any further time in this new year, I thought it would be nice to have a little glance back at the year we've just had, specifically the books that I've read. So I'm going to rate and review them all now, very, very quickly. 30 seconds or less, 28 of the buggers. Let's get it on! Shamon! Right, let's do this. Call forth the first book. Here it is. This time last year, I was reading Stephen King's The Wastelands, the third book of the Dark Tower series. Absolutely cracking series, I must say. A brilliant mixture of science fiction, fantasy, and some horror in there as well. This particular book is the first book that's ever made me cry. It features a demonic AI intelligence that inhabits a monorail of all things. Yes, I gave this 5 out of 5. What a cracking way to begin the year. 5 out of 5 gets to blast off into Valhalla. So off you go. Splendid. Okay, the next one. This is John Wyndham's Web. This was not quite as good, I must say. This was published 10 years after the author's death by his estate and appears to be a bit of a cash grab, I would say. There's a very good reason why this probably wasn't published when he was alive. It's not that good. It's a little bit like the Triffids, but with packs of intelligent spiders on a remote Pacific island. Quite bonkers. Some nice imagery here and there, but I didn't really like it, so only gave it 2 stars. Next up, yes, The Star's My Destination by Alfred Bester, published back in 1956. Now, this was an amazing adventure, featuring a protagonist that's a bit of a bastard, the idea of jaunting, teleportation, all craziness going on there. A bit like The Fifth Element, the film, whereby Bruce Willis is a bit of a bastard and his love interest he ends up raping. It's problematic in areas, but I absolutely loved it. 4 stars out of 5. Okay, next. Aha, yes, back on firm territory here. The 4th book of the Stephen King's Dark Tower series, Wizard and Glass. In this one, it's a kind of a backstory about Roland, his formative years, his love interest when he was a mere slip of a lad, and kind of set in a post-apocalyptic spaghetti western scenario. Absolutely loved it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Another 5 out of 5. This one gets to fuck off up to Valhalla. There he goes. Okay, next. Right, yes. The Moon's a Harsh Mistress by Robert A. Heinlein. Now, I had some issues with this. It's a bit of a divisive book, it would seem. A divisive author, in fact. Yes, set on the moon, a former penal colony, trying to overthrow world government back on Earth, using an intelligent AI, so a sentient AI, the first one it would seem. Quite a quirky book. I quite like some of the descriptions of how they live on the moon, but otherwise I was a bit bored, and the way the protagonist spoke it was a bit annoying. But anyway, there we are. 2 out of 5. Get out! Okay, next. Right, Destiny's Road by Larry Niven. So I purchased this on the year it was released, when I was 17, back in 1997. It's about a remote colony on a remote planet somewhere, but a planet that's deficient in potassium. And so people start losing their minds here and there, including the protagonist who's relating the story. And so it's very vague in places, I think purposefully, but there are problems with it as well. But I read it as the fact that the protagonist is kind of losing his memory here and there. So I really like that. I gave this 4 out of 5. I don't think it was what the author intended, but that's the way I read it. Anyway, very nice. Okay, next. Yes, right. Okay, it's Soul of the Robot by Barrington J. Bayley, published back in 1956. In this story, we follow the exploits of one Jasper Rodus, a robot who's been created in what appears to be a pseudo-medieval scenario, post-apocalyptic. So civilization's risen and fallen, but there's a robotician who's created this robot who is self-aware. So this is a kind of coming of age in a way, in a robot way, trying to find the meaning of his life. Very enjoyable. I gave this 3 out of 5. Okay, what's next? Yes, this was a beauty. So Where Late the Sweetbird Sang by Kate Wilhelm. So this is about cloning. Again, post-apocalyptic. So there's a small community that tries to perpetuate the human race using cloning because of the declining population due to various shit that's going on in the background. Interesting ideas about individuality, creativity, relationship to nature, what it means to be human. Lots of things going on there, but a very haunting tale as well. Really, really loved it. So this was 4 out of 5 from me. Beautiful. Next. Right. This is the first book by A.E. van Vogt I read, The Winged Man. Originally published in Astounding Science Fiction back in 1944 in a serialized format. It read very much that way. It's kind of meandering. But basically what's happening is there's a US naval submarine that's blasted into the far future, whereby there's a conflict between the winged men and the seamen. The seamen, if you will. Interesting imagery, some interesting ideas, but all over the bloody place. Didn't really like it. Okay, what's next? Okay, Beyond Apollo by Barry Malzberg, published in 1972. I didn't really like this. It was trying to be very clever, very arch. Fucking bastards everywhere. So we don't know whether the protagonist is insane or what's happened. So basically, this astronaut's been on a mission to Venus and apparently encountered some kind of alien intelligence that's made him go completely bonkers. But we don't know if he ever actually made it there. We don't know. We don't know whether he's got homosexual leanings towards his captain. There's all kinds of things going on, but I found it absolutely tedious and trying a bit too hard to be clever. So this one got 2 out of 5 and it can fuck off. Right, what's next? Oh my goodness, this was an absolute beauty. So Greg Bear's Blood Music. This is the second time I've read this one. I didn't review it on my channel at the time. I first came across this story in an episode of The Outer Limits. And I believe there's a short story version of this as well. So it's about a scientist that injects himself with an experimental virus. And ends up causing a worldwide pandemic of epic proportions. I mean, this scenario is bleak. So it's like the grey goo kind of scenario, end scenario for humanity, where it's just run away and things go absolutely crazy. First time I read this, it absolutely blew my mind. The second reading wasn't quite as good, but it's still brilliant. I mean, I knew what was coming. But yes, I think there is a bit of padding here and there. I think the short story would probably be a bit more impactful. But anyway, I still gave it 5 out of 5. It's an absolute beast. Greg Bear. Love Greg Bear. Okay, off you go. Wonderful. Next. Yes, Only Forward by Michael Marshall Smith. So this is recommended to me by me old mate Rich. Gumshoe detective, metaphysical dreamland exploration, far future, bit of time travel. It's got everything. A district, a massive city that encompasses all of North America, different districts, each one slightly different in very odd ways indeed. Brilliant, really brilliant. Told in the first person. I don't always like those, but this was really strong, really interesting character. I gave this one 4 out of 5. On the cusp of 5 out of 5, but there we are. Lovely. Next. Okay, right, Shadow of Heaven by Bob Shaw. This is the first book by Bob Shaw I've ever read. I didn't really like it. But I didn't realise at the time this was an abridged version. So it's a kind of a missing persons kind of story. And there's these great big floating agrarian discs floating above what was once New York. And it's all over the place, really. Interesting imagery. Some quite nice ideas. But the story just tedious. But it's probably because it was abridged. Even if it wasn't abridged, I don't think I would have liked it. But I gave it 2 out of 5. Nice cover, though. Okay, next. Okay, oh dear. Restoree by Anne McCaffrey. The first book I've read of Anne McCaffrey. This is one of her very early ones. This is from 1967. An absolutely farcical, tedious romance set on a far world. So this young woman is spirited away from New York of the contemporary 60s. Works for an advertising agency. She doesn't like the way her nose is. She's a virgin. She gets remade into a beautiful young woman and helps overthrow a political coup on a remote fucking alien world. It was quite well written in places, I must say, but bloody awful. 1 out of 5. Next. Ship of Strangers by Bob Shaw. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So after I read Shadow of Heaven, a number of you said, well, Bob's better than that. And so I was recommended Ship of Strangers. I was not disappointed. So this story follows the adventures of a geological survey ship, mapping parts of the galaxy. It's used as a device for kind of short stories, really, all interlinked. Cells interlinked. There's a little reference from a film there. Tell me if you know what it is. Yeah, really, really good. 4 out of 5 I gave that one. Lovely. Next. Okay, Night of the Puudly by Clifford D. Simak, not quite sure. Collection of short stories. Really quite good, actually. It reminded me of Philip K. Dick. There's a kind of surrealist edge to it. One particular story that stuck in my mind was a pilot that was yearning to return to Mars, but he didn't do it. He's done something bad in the past. Eventually, he forces his way onto a ship and makes the perilous voyage over there, only to find that once he gets there, he's been brainwashed into thinking he needs to get to Mars because basically they can't get enough people to pilot ships because it's such a bloody dangerous voyage. So they have to make their pilots really want to go there. Brilliant idea. 4 out of 5, this one. Next. Ah, yes, right. Okay, this is the first book of the Free Body Problem by Liu Shin. I had to look up that pronunciation. I had no idea how to pronounce it. Yes, right. I really quite liked this book. I didn't review it at the time. I may do it this year. I don't know. I know a lot of people really love it. A lot of people really don't like it at all. I was somewhere in the middle, but slightly above average. Really interesting ideas and quite a haunting feeling of dread, impending dread. So this is about a potential alien invasion. I mean, it's an alien invasion that's going to be happening in like 400 years or something like that. Brilliant, some really brilliant ideas. But I think perhaps due to the translation, it was a little bit dry in places. The prose were a bit laboured. But other than that, some really fantastic ideas. I gave this 4 out of 5. Okay, here we go. Ah, yes, right. Okay, another A. Van Vogt story, Slan. So after I didn't like The Winged Man very much, this one was recommended to me. So this is about a race of genetically superior humans called Slans. They have telepathy. They're more intelligent. They're stronger, more powerful. It's about them trying to stop humanity killing them off, basically. Some really good ideas. It could have been better, though. I think, for me, A. Van Vogt's writing is slightly turgid at times. It's slightly boring to me. But, yeah. So, 3 out of 5 I gave that. So, yeah, I'm not going to smack it out of the way, but, yeah, 3 out of 5. Okay, what's next from the heavens? Oh, lovely. It's Christopher Priest, The Space Engine. So this was Christopher Priest's kind of love letter to H.G. Wells. So a mishmash, really, of War of the Worlds and the Time Machine. Specifically the War of the Worlds, really. Used the idea of the time machine as a space machine also. So you could move through space as well as time. Kind of makes sense in a way. But it was more or less box ticking to a certain extent. Once they got onto Mars, it was just kind of working out how things were going over there and the preparations for the invasion of Earth. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The period setting was really good as well, very faithfully rendered. But I only gave this 3 out of 5. I just thought there was scope there for more. But there we are. Lovely. Other works by Christopher Priest, please seek them out. Inverted World is my absolute favourite. Okay, what's next? Oh dear. Okay, so this was Night of the Saucers by Eando Binder from 1971. Pulp science fiction, farcical, absolute shambles. So we have this young American man, square-jawed, bit of a hunk, married, and a simpleton, it must be added, and he's married to a beautiful young alien woman with purple eyes. They have a flying saucer parked in their garage, and every now and then they have to save the world from imminent destruction by invading aliens. Yes, it's completely shit, but the fight scenes are absolutely brilliant. Made me laugh out loud each time. So yeah, there we are. I gave this 5 brown stars actually. So it's a book that's so bad it's good. So there we are. That one got banished to the bog of eternal stench.
Oh my God.
Okay, so what's next? Yes, it's The Fermata by Nicholson Baker, published back in 1995. It's the second time I've read this one. It's kind of, it's like an erotic science fiction, if you will. A very intelligently and poetically written account of a one Arno Strine and his adventures as a pervert. So basically he can stop time at will, and when he stops time he likes to walk around the streets, remove the clothes from attractive young women and beat his meat. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a seething, lustful, slightly dirty, slightly uncomfortable read, really. It's like the musings of a madman, really. But wonderfully written, I must say. I gave this one 3 out of 5. Okay, next. Clans of the Alphane Moon by Philip K. Dick. So this is the only Dick I read this year. Absolutely love Dick. This one is about an asylum on a remote moon of the Alphane system. And this asylum has since been broken up, and the various occupants now have their own kind of settlement, but they're all in groups as to their previous diagnosis, so manic depressives and the like. Yes, completely bonkers as usual, but yes, quite provoking, thought-provoking, provoking and thought-provoking. There we go. 3 out of 5. Yeah, I didn't mind it. Right, what's next? Oh dear, this is embarrassing. This is my book, so it's the one I'm writing at the moment, so I'm going to be publishing it in the next 2 or 3 months or so. So this cover is a kind of mock-up, so the various characters there, you can probably recognise me there, and there's a couple of my brothers and my partner. Yeah, so it's I'm going to be painting it basically, so that I only started it yet, but there we are. So it's a kind of humorous fantasy tale about a failed wizard. My kind of sense of humour. It won't be for everyone, obviously, but it's not Terry Pratchett, let's put it that way. But anyway, that'll be coming out soon. Right, okay, next. Right, okay, second part of the Free Body Problem. Second part of the trilogy, The Dark Forest. So this is about the Dark Forest part comes from the Fermi's paradox, the idea that there should be thousands of civilizations, intelligent ones in our galaxy alone, but we haven't heard from them. So the Dark Forest theory is that we haven't heard from them because they're all scared of each other. You don't want to give yourself away, basically. So this book is about that idea specifically. Some really, really interesting ideas again. I didn't really like the way it was written. It was quite a long book, but there's the idea there's a teardrop thing. That's all I'm going to say. It's not a spoiler, but that idea was incredible and really, really scary. Gave this 4 out of 5. Okay, what's next? Oh yes, of course, it's Bird Box by Josh Malerman. Became the Netflix film with Sandra Bullock. I wish I had read the book before the film. The film, it tries, but it's not as good as the book. So, post-apocalyptic, something weird's happened. People are killing themselves, killing each other because of something they're seeing in the outside world. The only safe place is in houses. You've got to board up the windows, never look outside, else you'll go bonkers. Reminded me of Jose Saramago's blindness. So in effect they're blind, so if they're travelling outside they've got to be blindfolded. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, so I gave this 4 out of 5. Okay, next. Yes, Agent of Chaos by Norman Spinrad. So this is the last book I reviewed on here, I think, featuring the protagonist of Boris Johnson, not the former Prime Minister, but another bumbling fool. It's about the overthrow of a government again. It was okay. Okay, I gave it 2 out of 5. Right, here we go, the penultimate book, The Last Yggdrasill by Robert F. Young. This is one of the books my brother brought back from San Francisco for me. I read it because the cover interested me and the blurb was completely bonkers. So we're dealing here with intergalactic tree surgeons, really. There's this colony planet and they've got this fucking great tree and they think that the tree is responsible for their community, their buildings dying. So their buildings appear to be organic, left there by the previous alien occupants. They think because of the shade this tree casts, it's causing them problems, so they want the bastard thing lopped off. The chap that goes in to do the work, only one person can get into this tree at once for some law or whatever, I don't know what it is. He encounters a wood nymph, so she's living in the tree, and she kind of knows that the end is nigh for her, and she doesn't try to persuade him to stop cutting it down. It's a kind of a sad lament, I suppose, about the last passing of this tree. I really quite enjoyed it. It was really well written. I didn't review it at the time, but there we are. There's a mini little one there. Quite a curious little story. I gave this one 3 out of 5. Okay, on to the very last one here. Okay, so it's Death's End, the final book of the Three Body Problem trilogy. This was a weighty tome indeed. Took me a while to get through it, but I really enjoyed it, I must say. I gave it 4 out of 5. But it did suffer from the same problems as the previous ones due to, I guess, the translation. There's a postscript in the first book that explains the ideas of the translator, that wanting to keep perhaps the structure and some of the cadences of Chinese language in the English translation. That's a good excuse, I suppose, but at times it still seems a bit trite. You know, the prose, especially when they're trying to describe something, I don't know how many times water and waterfalls and stars are used. It's just a bit lazy, I think. I've also heard that the author is very much inspired by the work of Arthur C. Clarke. That does come across. I mean, this is hard science fiction. Characterization of people is kept to a minimum. It's just a vehicle for ideas primarily. At the same time, that kind of cold detachment allows for a kind of sinister atmosphere to build, which I really liked in all 3 books. There's always impending doom, really, which I absolutely loved. Brilliant idea of a weapon in this book as well that can convert 3-dimensional space into 2-dimensional space. The the way that was imagined was really quite appealing. I don't know if I already said, I gave this 4 out of 5, yeah, like the other two. So really good, but not amazing. I mean, it's not the best thing I've ever read by a long chalk, but some really interesting and original ideas that I've never come across before. Also, a really horrible character called Sophon in it. Really evil. Alien evil. Anyway, there we are. That's all of them. I doubt you've sat through all that. This has taken me bloody ages. I don't know how long it's going to take to edit the damn thing. I've got a couple of book hauls in the offing. I've got some books that I got for Christmas. And the other day I purchased almost 100 books just because it was going so cheap. Mostly fantasy, but with some science fiction in there as well. I'm also working on a very short documentary about the phallus in science fiction book covers. So that might be interesting to some of you. I found it quite interesting. But anyway, let's leave it there. Once more, thank you for everyone who's been following me this last couple of years. And hopefully you'll stick with me a bit longer over this coming year. I don't know whether I will be faithfully churning videos out every week. I'm going to try to maybe increase the quality slightly. So I might take my time a bit more. Probably won't. I'll probably just do the same old crap, but there we are. Okay, right, let's leave it there. Thanks for watching. Cheerio. See you next time.
Cells.
Cells.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
Cells.
Interlinked.
Interlinked.
What's it like to hold the hand of someone you love? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do they teach you how to feel finger to finger? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you long for having your heart interlinked? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you dream about being interlinked?
Interlinked.
What's it like to hold your child in your arms? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Do you feel that there's a part of you that's missing? Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Within cells, interlinked.
Within cells interlinked.
Why don't you say that 3 times? Within cells, interlinked.
Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked. Within cells interlinked.
We're done. Constant K. You can pick up your bonus.
Thank you, sir.